Hello, my name is Kane. This is Castle Tutelage, your home defense network. These are the types of videos that I really enjoy. Tennessee Outdoor 9 recently had an interaction with a local police officer, and he was concealed carrying again. And he does a very good job. And I'm not going to say that what he did was right or wrong. I think he did a very good job in dealing with the state, because if you ever get pulled over by a cop, and you are concealed carrying, you really feel the full weight and force of the local government. Are you going to be standing by your rights? Are you sure enough about what you know about your rights to be sticking by them? And that you always kind of second guess your questions, or your actions. So I'm not going to really say what he did was wrong. And what he basically, I'm just going to give broad general strokes of what his story was, and then we'll get into a little bit what I think on 2020 it is, or what I imagine what I would do in that situation. Basically, he was driving in his car. He had a Glock in his glove compartment. He had his Tennessee permit on him, and he was going to a Father's Day barbecue that was a little bit of distance away from his home. He noticed that a police officer was following him. And then after a mile or two, the lady officer finally pulled him over for an extinguished brake light. If I'm going to say this, if a cop follows you, there is so many different varieties on how that officer can get probable cause to pull you over. Whether it's going in and out of a lane, touching a painted line, having a brake light out, not completely stopping at a stop sign. There are so many different ways for a police officer to pull you over. It's unbelievable. There is a very low threshold for that. Okay. She pulls her over. He goes through the correct things, making your hands visible to the officer. He gets a little bit chatty in his narrative with it, and for me personally, I probably wouldn't get into that much of chattiness, because at some point, if you are answering questions, no matter how benign the question is, it can be argued that you have waived your right not to speak. Okay. The more questions and that's why police officers start to ask you questions, because once you start to ask questions, good people, want to help the police officer as much as they can, and they divulge too much answer. They start just to regurgitate, or just give information that wasn't out there. And for some reason, law-abiding people want to be helpful for the police officer, but generally the police officer is going to be putting you into a gauntlet, putting you into a bunch of questions that will send you down a road that you may not be aware of what that road is. I'm going to back off a little bit and tell you a story that I have said many times on my own channel, is that a truck driver buddy of mine was on his handheld cell phone. A police officer pulled him over because of that while he was in a truck, his commercial vehicle, and said, "Hey, were you on a cell phone?" The guy said, "Yes." Never admit to a crime. It's not, don't say no. I'm not telling you to say no. I'm telling you not to divulge that you're talking yourself into becoming a criminal. He said yes. The next question is one of those gauntlet questions, sending you down the road. The next question is, who were you talking to? Now, just a civilian, that's going to seem like, what a benign question that is. Why are you even asking me who I was talking to? Well, it turns out that what the law is, and I'm not exactly sure what the fine is, but if you are talking on your phone in a commercial vehicle, a handheld phone, it's generally going to be about a $2,700 fine. That next, what you think is a benign question of who were you talking to, depending on your answer, will triple what that fine is, somewhere between $9,000 and $10,000. My buddy said, talking to my wife. The police responded saying, good answer. Why? Because if he said that he was talking to his dispatcher, his company, it would have been between a $9,000 and $10,000 fine. So when police officers are asking you those questions, you may not be sophisticated enough to know exactly where that person is going, but what they're actually trying to do is to make you talk yourself into becoming a criminal. Um, and that's basically what, at the end of Tennessee Outdoor Nine's view, is that the officer, after everything was said and done, gave him back the license and registration or insurance card, whatever it was. And this is the absolutely classic thing that the police officers will do, is that, oh yeah, they're getting everything back and we're going to be getting it going. And it gets your mindset to be going, go. And then they go, one more question. Have you moved? And this is what the police officer asked. Have you moved recently? And Tennessee Outdoor 9 said no. And then she goes, what are you doing in our community? Well, I'm not exactly sure what kind of a trap that is, but you just need to not speak and go on your merry way. Now, this is, I wasn't in his shoes. I've never had the full weight and force of a local municipality asking you these questions, because good people want to give the police officers what they want. And once you kind of see the door, and then the police officer shuts it in, and you may become flustered. And that's what that, oh, by the way, one more question, is really designed to do. Let's back up a little bit. In his, he was telling, when she was going through the story about, I do have a Tennessee gun permit. I do have a gun in the glove compartment. In his words, he said that it was not chambered. Okay, there was no live round in the barrel. And then she asked him if it was okay for her to go over there and open it up. I'm not exactly sure what I would do. Basically, unless if it's a long trip, I don't want to hear about it. Yes, I carry on basically my 4 or 5 o'clock position. Yes, I know I won't be able to get here, but it's not the point of the story. I generally do not run with a gun in the glove compartment or somewhere outside of on my person. I just don't want to not have absolutely good control of it at that time. He said where it was. The police officer asked if she can go over there and basically secure it, and he said yes. Basically what I would do, and again, it really depends on your comfort level and whether it's a state law that you really need to get involved with it. But out of courtesy, I would just say I do have a handgun permit, concealed carry weapons permit. My handgun is on my right hip. However, I do not consent to any searches or seizures, and that's something that I would do. But basically what he allowed her to do is to open up his passenger door. He allowed her to open up the glove compartment box, and he allowed her to look for the registration or insurance papers, whatever it was. It doesn't matter what he asked, what she found in there. But basically, you at that time are allowing the police officer to basically search your car. And that is a scenario that you want to absolutely avoid at all costs. Even though that you don't have anything to hide, it's not about having anything to hide. It's about asserting your rights and not allowing the police officer to do something, because no matter what, if you think it is legal or not, The police officers are more involved on an everyday basis of what is legal and what is not legal. Even if you say that you don't consent to any searches or seizures, the police officer is going to go down a road of probably securing your handgun at some point. Again, I'll just probably reiterate, I do not consent to any searches or seizures. And if the person asks you to get out of your car for them to secure the handgun, let them do it. If a law was broken, you can always have your lawyers talk about it later. So this is a scenario where I love it. I love these scenarios. And then you put yourself in their situation, and you go through it. I've talked several times. Anybody can teach you how to squeeze the trigger. There was a forum held by Yankee Marshall about what is the most important thing about self-defense. And some people would talk about situational awareness. And of course, Yankee Marshall said, no, I disagree with you, everything, and training is the most important thing. Well, I disagree with Yankee Marshall and situational awareness. It really depends on your level of how recent you became a handgun owner and your training from there on out. I think it is very important to be trained well. I think it is very important to have situational awareness, because situational awareness will get you out of trouble more often than not. But for me, the most important thing about self-defense is exactly what George Zimmerman is doing right now. I am not on George Zimmerman's side, and I'm definitely not on Trayvon Martin's side. There is something in the middle of there. Whether George Zimmerman falls to the level of second-degree murder, I don't think the prosecution has gotten there yet. But one thing I am certain about, if George Zimmerman did not have a gun that day, Trayvon Martin would be arrested for assault, plain and simple, and using his terms of cracker and what was the other one? Oh, yes, he used the N-word toward George Zimmerman several times also. That is, to me, a higher level of ill will compared to saying someone is a punk and an asshole. But I digress. I digressed a little bit with the George Zimmerman scenario, but the thing about what I was trying to convey about the George Zimmerman scenario is that training is important, situational awareness is important, but if you do not know the laws and how it applies in your state, you are severely behind the power curve. And that's what I really want to convey. And that, for a large part of what I've been doing for the past several months, is hopefully helping the people who do watch these videos to get out there and look at the law and the application of the law and how your state works. Even in a stand your ground state, there are certain things that you need to be aware of. First thing is great bodily harm and or death. The second one is unwilling participant. Third one is use of force if it's appropriate for your attacker, and the third one is retreat. Even in the stand your ground state, those four elements have to come into play. And I won't bore you with the video on this part with it. If you want to see it, there are other videos on that. The one thing I do want to say about training is very important. However, what I have seen in the past in some of Massad Ayub's articles, training is actually may be held against you. If you are training every other month, it can make you look like a nut job to the 12 or 6 broccoli socks on the jury. George Zimmerman has 6 women on the jury. I'm not exactly sure if you came to the jury and said, I train on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, next day was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, according to some of the case law that Massad Ayub does, that's going to be looking against you like you are training to kill someone. You are going to be a Rambo type, and you want to use your training on somebody. It could look very bad on you. So even though training is important, it's not going to keep you out of the legal battle. What's going to keep you out of the legal battle is knowing that in the George Zimmerman case, you getting out of the car, you became a willing participant. You following the trail that where Martin went, you are becoming a participant. Again, when we don't know really the sequence of events, and where I'm at in the George Zimmerman trial is where Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman came together, there was some kind of verbal confrontation. Once you become in a verbal confrontation, and George Zimmerman, it sounds like George Zimmerman said, "What are you doing in this area?" Tennessee Outdoor 9. Same question. George Zimmerman asked the same question that you were asked. What are you doing in my neighborhood? What are you doing in our community? He confronted, and what you really need to know is that even in a stand your ground state, you are going to have to explain why you are no longer a willing participant, why there was a retreat path. It didn't say George Zimmerman ran away or whatever that situation is. So learn about your laws, learn about the application of the laws, and what the level of force, retreat, unwilling participant, and death or great bodily harm, what that actually means in your state. And I think that is so much more important than everything is. This is a great video. Insert what he was telling you and make you into what in his story. How you figure that how you go about his story and what you would have done, or if you would have done the same thing, and not just say I agree with you 100%. Tell yourself why you agree with me 100%. Tell yourself why you are doing a certain actions and justifying it with legal precedent. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be. This is just for information only. My name is Caden. This is Castle Doodle, your home defense network. I hope this helped.